Good morning, my friends. I am grateful to be with you again. I'm knowing that in perhaps a distant or not so distant future, when things go back to some kind of normal, maybe I can come out and be with you on a Sunday. So let's begin as we always do by taking a few breaths together. So if you will, exhale first. Take a deep breath in. And let go. And take another deep breath in. And let go. And one more together breath, breathing in and letting go. And so this morning, as we move through the month of August, our theme across Centers for Spiritual Living is inclusion and action. And today, my topic, or our topic, is who we are. And I really want to take that to begin with that as really an expression of looking at, first of all, at the self. Of asking not who we are, but who am I? And each one of us individually, as part of the greater we, first asking the question, who am I? Because we live in a world right now that seems to be more and more and more divided. And it seems to be that we are continuously pointing at the otherness of each other, for better in some cases, and also for worse in many others. But more than ever are we as a society, as a people, as a world really, divided against party lines, whether it's Republican or Democrat, or across racial lines, or across gender lines, or across economics. There's a lot of difference happening in the world right now, and so much of what's coming up is this otherizing based on pointing at another person and labeling them as one thing. As a Republican, as a Democrat, as a white person, as a black person, as a poor person, as a rich person, as someone who's an immigrant, as someone who's born in this country. We're continuously pointing at specific othernesses. And yet, I don't know that I personally can be summed up as any one thing. I know that every single one of us really, in a sense, has a whole layering of worlds within inside of us. I really believe that each individual is worlds within worlds within worlds. And that we all have all these different lines of the self that were developed over all the different experiences and circumstances that happen over the course of our life that make us who we are. And I like to think that we all live in sort of this, I use the fear to faith model, or the sort of Gene Houston social artistry model, which is to look at the world and sort of say that perhaps there's 4 layers or 4 worlds that exist within each person. And I think that if we start to develop ways of thinking that allow us to look at ourselves and look deep within the layers of the self and start to ask those deep questions of who am I? What is going on inside of me? Because if the world that we see in front of us is a reflection or a creation or a refraction of what each one of us is individually thinking, and the reality in front of us is sort of the overlap of our projective collective thought, then if we don't like what we're seeing in the world, and we're looking out there and seeing a what that appears not to be working, then we have to look back at ourselves and say, wait a minute, who are we? Who are we if this is the world that we're projecting? Who are we if this is the world that we're creating? Who are we if this is the country that we are creating? And yet I deeply believe that the science of mind tells me that everything that I see is a reflection of myself in some way. But what that means to me is if I don't like what I'm seeing, I need to do some serious looking. And I believe that that's true for many of us right now. Across Centers for Spiritual Living, we have a number of groups of individuals who are reading through the book Me and White Supremacy and doing that work of asking ourselves, who am I? Who am I? How have I shown up with these people and with these people and in this situation and with this person? And when we start to ask the deep questions and we start to be willing to allow the world around us to be a reflection of who we are, I tell you, my friends, we each are going to realize that there's a lot of work to do on these internal worlds if we actually want to see a world in front of us that looks a little different, that looks more harmonious, that looks more like what we're dreaming of or what we're seeking to experience. You know, if the world outside of us is created by the world inside of us, then there's a deep responsibility for each one of us to really look within. I mentioned this sort of 4 layers of the world, you know, and Marcia Sutton in the Fear to Faith work teaches that we can see the world as happening in 4 different ways. We can see the world as happening to us. We can see the world as happening by us. We can see the world as happening through us, coming through us. And we can see the world as happening as us. And Science of Mind tells us to see all things as God and to see the world happening as us and to see the reflection that's there. But I also tell you that it is our collective and internal thoughts of the collective society, of our generations, of history, that is manifesting all over the place. And there's so much that's coming through the subconscious that is being created that it really takes the deep internal work for all of us to really look at what's coming through us. And that takes deep looking, like reading through and doing the work of me and white supremacy, to look at systemic oppression, to look at racism as it exists in myself and in ourselves. Because the only way to change it out there is to stop it at the source. And when each one of us are perpetuating ideas and ways of doing things unconsciously, when they're just coming through us, we're still helping build whatever it is that's out there. And so we have to begin to look at what are all the unconscious thoughts, the unconscious biases, the programming each one of us is carrying around that's perpetuating what's out there. And that's the layer of the world that each one of us needs to take on as our own responsibility and say, you know what, the by me part is to look within, is to ask the questions, it's to read the book, to be part of the circle, to do the deep work, to ask for the reflections, to look for the ways of doing and being that can start to change the experience that I'm having, that we are having. And if we want to see a different world around us, then we have to start looking within and cleaning up what we're seeing inside. Because there is so much that is outside of our control, and there are many layers of the world that are happening to us all the time. Many of us are born into circumstances that are outside of our control. Many of us have issues in our mind, our body, that are outside of our control. And it's if we really start to recognize that each one of us lives in all of these different layers and levels, and that there's worlds within each person. And if we start to look at ourselves and start to ask of ourselves, who am I? And then we start to look into the eyes of the other and say, who are we? I know that I am a multitude of invisible worlds. And I know that you are a multitude of invisible worlds. And when I stop labeling you as a group and get to know a person, get to know the individual, start to delve into the worlds that exist inside of you, oftentimes it's our humanity that shows up. It's our connection, it's our oneness, it's our awareness of who we are that starts to show up. And it's really easy to otherize entire groups of people. You know, if you're on the left, it's really easy to point at the right and say, all of those people who think that way. Or if you're on the right, you look at the left and you say, all of those people who think that way. And yet, there's individuals in each one of our lives who are on either side of those divides separate from us. And if we just lump them into a category, we're never going to hear what they say. You know, I'm a big Emerson fan. And Ralph Waldo Emerson lived in a world very similar to ours. He said, if I know what political party you align with or what religion you're part of or this or that, he goes, I don't even need to talk to you. If you truly identify as that thing, I already know what you're going to say when I ask you a question, because you're going to give me the Republican answer or the Democrat answer or the left answer or the right answer or the Protestant answer or the Catholic answer. And Emerson says, be a spontaneous place where reality happens. Be a spontaneous place where the universe is being created for the first time. Let the worlds that exist within you bubble up like the foaming forth of the universe and express as instantaneous new possibility. We're living in a world that is rapidly changing, my friends, and we are seeing in front of us that the world out there is truly a reflection of all that is foaming forth from the collective of the human mind. And I really believe that if we want to ask ourselves, who are we? There's only two directions to look. We can look out and we can see the separation, we can see the craziness, we can see things falling apart. Or we can look within and we can see the multitude of layers of selfhood that are creating. And either way we look right now, I guarantee if you look out into the world and you're really willing to look, or if you look into yourself and you're really willing to look, there's a lot of work to do on either end. And I really believe, for myself, that anything we do inside reflects what happens outside. And anything we do outside, if we do it intentionally, reflects what happens inside. And so I guess I'm calling us in an intention to take the world that is unfolding and spiraling in a way that seems to be out of control in a sense around us, but I think that out of controlness is just momentum, it's forward movement, it's evolution, it's something seeking to burst forth into reality, and it's ours to participate in it. And whether we're looking out there or we're looking in here, we can start either direction, because if it's all one thing and it's all connected, then it doesn't matter where we do the work. As long as we do the work, things are going to change. If we see issues in the world and we recognize that's my work, I need to participate in that, then go out and march and make the difference and do the change. If you look within yourself and are like, wow, there's a whole lot of stuff inside of myself that I really haven't examined and need to start looking at, then do that. And participate in a Me and White Supremacy book club, or read the book and do the work yourself, or go out and participate in a demonstration, or begin to take the pause and the time out that COVID and all of this weirdness of the world has offered us to start asking some deep questions of yourself, of who you are and what is your purpose and what are you seeking and what do you have to give in the world and what are your values. Because we have to ask ourselves, who am I? And we need to ask ourselves collectively as a society, as science of mind people, as neighbors, as families, as whatever collective of humans you find yourself part of, we really need to be asking ourselves, who are we? And then reaching across the lines of those sameness connections when we find out who we are and who those people are around us, and then reach out across political lines, across color lines, across economic lines, across gender lines, and start to get to know somebody and start to ask them about the worlds that exist within them. Because I guarantee you the entire universe exists within each person. And no one is any one thing. Except for that we're all part of one thing, and that one thing is God. That one thing is all that there is. And so we have this sort of funny equation in this conversation, which is, if you look out in the world, there's a whole lot of energy pointing at the other and saying, you're different than me. And I'm saying, yes, we are radically different from each other. There's entire worlds that exist within each individual, and each individual is an ocean of experience to be mined, to be seen, to be loved, to be explored. And yet, the deeper we look into the other, the deeper we look through the separation, the deeper we explore the worlds inside of each other, the more we're going to find sameness. The more we're going to find our connection. And if we look deep enough, we're going to find God. We're going to see the universe. We're going to see ourselves looking back at us. And so I really hope, my prayer for this time in history, for this moment in our society, for this experience of our evolution, my deep prayer is that all the separation and all the chaos and all of the difference and all of the discord causes us to start to ask some deep and serious questions, so that we really do start to look out into the world and look into the eyes of the other and break down our perception, and that we start to see God. I believe if there's ever been a moment in human history that could potentially evoke some sort of collective awakening, this may be it. Never before has the entirety of humanity, with very few exceptions, known about one thing happening at the same time. And I really believe that even just an awareness that something is taking place, wherever our attention goes, our collective energy gathers. And so I really believe that there is a gathering of collective energy happening in the world right now. And it looks like chaos, it looks like discord, it looks like difference. But the universe is exploding and expanding with possibility in every moment. Cosmologists are now saying the universe is foaming forth with multiplicity and possibility. And I believe that that foaming forth of multiplicity and possibility is not only the nature of the universe, it is the nature of the mind and the worlds that exist within each one of us. And so let's begin to seek out the other, begin to seek out the worlds, begin to seek out God. Because now is the time for us to rise up into new ideas, into new ways of being, into new ways of seeing, into new perceptions. Because, my friends, the world is ready for something new. The world is crying out for something new. And the time is now for each one of us to look deeply into ourselves and recognize that each one of us is a creator. And the world that we are seeing is our overlapping projection. And it's hundreds of years of history being projected in front of our eyes. And there's a lot of attention necessary to a lot of little details. And so begin to look within, ask the questions, participate in the conversation wherever you find it. Begin to do the work within and look out into the world and find the places where you can make changes and actions and participations. Because something wonderful, something evolutionary, something expansive, I believe, is seeking to burst forth into the world right in front of us right now. That the vibration is present. Something is rising up. Let us be the change. Let us be what we're looking for. Let us be the answer. So look deeply and be willing to see yourself and be willing to see God. Take a deep breath. And if it's comfortable, close your eyes as we move into a moment of prayer. So right here and right now, I just claim, know, and declare that there is only one life. That this one is the universe, that it is consciousness, that it is life, that it is God. And I know that it is this one that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe. It is this one who is the multiplicity of everyone and everything. And it is this one that exists inside of itself, infinitely expanding, experiencing. And that there is a multitude of possibility that exists within each individual. And I believe that every person holds a piece of the great puzzle of what is and what is coming, of what wants to be. And that it is our deep oneness that is seeking to come forth, and it is coming through us so strong that we are responding in apparent separation. For me, coronavirus is a reminder that we are so connected as a global family that we now have to remain a few feet apart. That's how connected we are. It seems like a paradox, but in paradox there is God. And so let us just be in the awareness that it is the Spirit of the living God, it is the rise and fall of the universe, it is evolution itself, who is peering through the eyes of every human being, that is rising up, that is marching up, that is standing for truth, for love, for life, for forward movement on this planet, in this nation, and in each one of us. Let each of us remember that the world outside is a reflection of the world inside, and that the world inside is a reflection of the world outside. And so anything that we can see that needs to be cleaned up, it's ours to do. And so let us look within, ask the questions, and make the changes, because we know that if we change our thinking, if we change our minds, we can change our lives. And if we can change our lives, we can change the lives of others. And if we can change the lives of others, then together we can build a world that works for all. And so let us move in that direction and be moved by a power for good in the universe that is greater than we are, and allow it to come through us in every moment, every choice. Let us be a conscious people. Let us say yes to life. And so it is. Thank you, my friends. I'll see you soon.